Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
This
Mullen.
heinous thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Larry Mullen is here with us. Larry, it's been some time. It's been a couple of weeks since we've all...
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I feel older, I know that, but Dianne looks younger. I love that. I love
wish.
that. Just all the stress of the world. Yeah, that was season 7 was a stressful season. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Executive producership, Steve and Jess had divorced. And that was really settling itself down. It was like a hand grenade for me. And I brought in Phil Sabath and,
Larry, we've never really talked about that because, it was a touchy topic, you know what I mean? But looking back on that now, and it was a big deal that happened when Jessica and Steve were divorcing, right?
Well, they no longer were a creative entity. They could not even be in the same room together. It was very volatile. It's just the way it is. I mean, people's lives get in the way sometimes. You can't really blame it. There's no, fault in looking back on it now, and both of them have passed. It's so sad. But yeah, it was a difficult time because we couldn't function like we normally did. And we have our 32 episode order. So I had to kind of really put it in high gear and basically just, kind of put it on my back and just do what I could and trust, people on the other side of the hill, like Paul, who also was getting sick at that point too.
Right.
So I lost the I lost the actors because he was the actor's advocate. I mean, he was the producers, with the actors. He was their, father confessor. All they could do was, and again, it was a very tough time because it was going to be the end of college. And what does that mean? Does that mean the show goes on? Do they have to renegotiate their deals? Who's leaving? Who's coming? Dianne and I mean, we couldn't really think about this. We got 32 episodes to do here, including we just got to cast these things. And, I was looking over the things we cast in this season. And it's just phenomenal. Some of the characters and some of the actors we had, we were so lucky.
Yeah.
So I don't want to belabor that or the politics of it, but yeah, it was a tough season, but I kind of looking at it now, Dianne, we've seen a lot of it, and it really holds up pretty well. There's some, obviously there's a couple of clinkers here and there, but for the most part, there's some really wonderful stuff, and which continued the legacy in a real honest, authentic 90210 way that the fans really appreciated.
There's this thing about 90210, right? That the show is dramatic and there's all this stuff happening. But what was happening behind the scenes with the writers was now almost as dramatic as the on-screen stuff. Is that a fair statement?
For me, it was certainly on my end of the building because, I didn't have Chuck anymore. I didn't have Chip anymore. And Steve and Jess,
how did you learn to adapt to that? You know what I mean?
I did it all myself.
But did you have time when you would work with Steve and then you'd work with Jess separately?
I worked with Steve. I never worked with Jess after that at all. In fact, there was really very little work that after the beginning of that season that Jess did. It was just too difficult.
Was Jess someone still in the casting process with you, Dianne?
Yes, I would hope so. Yeah, I mean, look.
But
Kevin was also a little difficult in the casting office as well.
Okay, so what was going on in your department, in your world? What was happening there?
My world?
Yeah.
It was all the changes that Larry has mentioned. They especially with Paul, so affected us. And also season 7 of a TV series is always a crazy year. And it's trying to figure out how to put this. It's not always there are so many people and personalities that just kind of collide and they just go and everybody's off in another world sometimes or most of the time, and including myself in trying to figure out what's the season's going to be like, because I remember it being on the show, all these new spelling people came in, and you had to answer to more spelling people that you didn't have relationships with. And that was difficult. And also people on the show who started participating in casting who never did before and didn't really have a voice about casting is the most delicate way I can put it, I think. But every, people who I could rely on, like Larry and Jess and some and other people, it was fine. But you could feel the stress in the 7th season, just because I worked over on Calvert Street, and just on the sets, everything. It was different. It was a different season. Very different season.
I mean, Larry, we've never really talked about what happened with Paul. Do you want to talk about what happened?
He got ill. He just got ill. And so, he had to, do more doctors, more, it takes a toll on you. And again, we're doing 32 episodes. This is the 4th straight year of doing 32 episodes. That's the equivalent of doing 7 seasons in 4.
Right.
So, and it's a lot of storytelling, a lot of just everything. Everything was just supersized. So, so it was just hard. It was just, but looking at it now, like I said, I'm very proud of the season. We were kind of heroic in it. We got through it. No one was hurt, no damaged, and other than me, basically. I just.
Let me ask
Dianne,
you this.
did you leave on your own that season?
I was just going to ask, Larry, we've talked about a bunch of times about you leaving, and it was kind of sudden and surprising that it happened for you. But for you, Dianne, this is going to be your last season.
Right.
Where was your mindset at this point?
It was the entire season. I was not connecting with the new head of spelling casting. And it was a big problem.
Was that Pat Shea we're talking about?
Pam Shea, yeah.
Pam Shea, yeah.
Yes. And what she was asking for was very difficult to provide. And I knew that it would be my last season on the show. And as it got closer and closer and closer, I could feel that even more. And so I left the same as everybody else did.
Yeah, well, everybody was gone at that point at the end of this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the upper management viewed the producers portion of it as a dysfunctional office because of what was going on. But despite that, we functioned, did 32, never were over, did all the stuff we had to do. And
you're talking
again,
about because
fans,
of Jessica and Steve, it was a dysfunction. Is that specifically what made it a dysfunctional? I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, it was because they were executive producers.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, but I worked with Steve. Steve had to be let go toward the end of the season. He just needed some time off. No, it just didn't, it just didn't work. It just couldn't, it was too much stress at that point. Too many mental health absences.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some of the people that we do bring in. Why don't we start with Jill Novick, because she's going to be Brandon's. We got rid of Susan Keats, and now we're going to have Brandon's next girlfriend. Do you remember? Is that a good place to start, Larry? Would you say that she was a big part of that season?
She's first on my list.
Yeah. Do you remember Jill?
I remember Jill because I like Jill. I was trying to remember where I first met her. I might have met her in reading for having her come in for the roles, and that would be my memory right now. But I definitely always liked her, and she was happy to be there.
She was. Yeah, I think she's spoken about that. Became very close with Tori, and
that's right. I didn't know that. I think that's
yeah, that is true. Yeah. Larry, what about you? Do you remember Jill and coming in?
Again, the character of Tracy Galeon, we were looking for something just a little bit of different feel from the Emma Keats thing, kind of, just someone who's going to be basically a news anchor. She's got to become our news anchor. So, it didn't have to be the sharpest knife in the set, but just perfect. And I think she kind of had it. She had a good quality to her, which we really liked, and we're thrilled with Jill.
Do you like that, Dianne, when Jill is enthusiastic about being a part of the show? She's a fan and all that kind of stuff. Is that, at this point, is that maybe one of the joys of casting the show?
Yes, because people want to be there.
Right.
And that makes all the difference in the world, because you don't want a bored actor.
Right.
Or someone who thinks the show is beneath them for some whatever reason, or thinks that they should be off doing something else, or something else. I don't know what it would be, but acting or whatever.
Sure, another bigger show, or
bigger show. Yes,
right.
exactly. And because that all you can pick up on that when an actor's in a room, and sometimes on the screen, even though you don't want to admit it, and you just kind of go, oh, I don't know about that, because I remember watching some episodes and I'm thinking,
I would think
they
that
want to be there.
I was going to say, I think Jason would have been involved in this also.
Jason Priestley,
because he was he was a producer at that point, and the first episode, which she was introduced in the first episode, which I wrote.
I don't know, because I know that we had the whole thing.
No, what kind of probably not. No, she must have come in the third episode or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because so Jason didn't direct that. Maybe he wasn't. But again, she would have gone through the process with spelling. I can't recall it. I can't remember who the other characters were up for it. Maybe Dianne has some information.
I don't in front of me. I don't remember that we took her to Aaron at all, because Aaron was not there that much.
Exactly. We had Jonathan Levin and Steve Tan, these other upper executive guys that we had to deal with in our building. They were executives in our building, not as Mr. Spelling, like she said, divested himself a little bit.
Right. And there was somebody else as well. I can't remember his name, but he started coming to casting sessions, and it was an interesting time. Interesting time. But I don't believe that we went through everything that we had to go through before.
I don't think so either.
All right, let's move on to someone else. How about, this is the big thing that happens in this season, is Dalton James. Dalton James comes on to the show to be Mark Reese, and you guys are all stoked, Larry, right, to have Mark Reese, this new character, and suddenly there's a kissing problem, and Dalton James is no longer on the show. Do you remember casting Dalton James, Dianne?
Very vaguely.
He went to spelling. That much I remember. That character went to spelling.
I do remember that. He went to spelling, but I remember hearing about the kissing problem. I do remember hearing about that, and I'm thinking, because when you get an actor who's going to be in multiple episodes or whatever, is a more important part, you think, once you get that person, you go, okay, great, on to the next. And your
job is done.
My job, and that one is done. Yes, let's move to the next.
Then you found out your job is not done.
Exactly. What do you mean I have to start over?
Do you have any of the details? Do you remember any of what had happened? Larry has told his version of the story.
You know what? I don't.
Larry, do you want to retell your version? Maybe this will help reflect. And just at this point in the series, we just should, at this point in the podcast.
I'm sure, just to be clear, I'm sure he would have been signed for like 9 out of 13 or something like that, or would he have had a full year deal? I can't remember at the time. We had big plans for him. He was going to be in the whole season from our point of view, but I'm not sure what his legal deal was. But let's say it was a regular, recurring character deal, but maybe like a 9 out of 12 or whatever it was. But probably about 5 or 6 episodes in, we started getting rumblings that the actors, there was a problem, and which I have put an umbrella title called The Kissing Problem, because that's again, our actresses and actors have to work close together and pretend to be intimate and enjoy it. And one of our actors was not enjoying it. One of our stars was not enjoying, obviously was Jenny, because it was Kelly Taylor.
Obviously that's the one who is working with this.
Kelly Taylor character. And anyway, I remember Steve and I'm not sure where Jess was. She might have been there, but Steve and I answered the call, an emergency call to go upstairs to Mr. Spelling's office, where he sat us down and said we had a big problem. He found out one of our actors was anti-Semitic, and we had to get rid of him. We go, what? Who? Dalton James. And Steve and I are like, what? But we know in our minds, and because me, I'm so compulsive, I'm already like 6 scripts ahead with this character. Right. So I'm going, oh, fuck. But I'm still going, oh my God, we're gonna have to write him out, but we're gonna do it. And we said, yes, we're gonna write him out. Yes, we're gonna. And we walk out of there, and we get to the elevator. I said, Steve, I think he just worked us. I bet that's totally untrue. He just wanted to get rid of the guy, and he just told us that. And Steve says, you're probably right. Yeah. So we had to go back and rewrite this 5 scripts.
Oh my God.
So that was, but again, this is what producers do, whatever it takes, so I'm not judging this Mr. Spelling at that point. In a way, that's what these master producers do. They just manipulate the moment. He knew if we had said anything less, we would have gone, but we're so far ahead, you can't do that. And we would have fought like Chuck, because Chuck was a battler. I like, oh, okay, I'll move on and write something else,
right?
Easier with it. But Chuck would have fought, and so I think he was expecting a fight, so he just kind of pulled out the anti-Semitic card out of
but especially because
he could have said racist, and it really burned the kid, which we all feel badly, probably isn't. But I said it was just one of those things that producers do to avoid conflict. And
do you have any recollection of any of this
character out?
No, none. This is the first I've heard of that part of. I remember hearing about the kissing problem, but no, nothing about anything else. Oh,
yeah. So it's not something like, whereas remember we talked a while back about maybe casting someone and knowing like, well, I don't know how she's going to get along with Shannon or something like that, right? Back in the day. But now it's like, was there anything like that as you moved into season 7 and the actors? You kind of said it, like the actors at this point. This is the 7th season of the show. I've been doing this a very long time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we're all set in our ways in different ways, right? So was there anything like that for you then in that season?
No.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's really good. Yes, it was.
I don't think it was so much on the surface. I wouldn't think it was a problem. This was just an intimacy problem, really.
Yeah. Okay, Michael Stoyanov, who is from Blossom and does have a lot of scenes with Jenny, and has told us it was wonderful. He had a wonderful experience working with her. So, what is your memories of Michael Stoyanov?
I pre-read him. I had never seen him on Blossom, but his agent,
it's a huge show, Diane.
What?
He's a big character on that huge show.
I know. He can't. He said, if you don't know him, come in. You know what? And I didn't know him on Blossom.
That's amazing.
That's great that he came in. That's great. He's wonderful in the part, by the way.
He's a wonderful actor. Yeah.
He was a wonderful, wonderful actor. And when I met him, it was just sitting and reading with him. I'm looking at him thinking, oh my God, this is really great. Where you just know that somebody can do this job. And it was meant to be. And that was my belief in Michael.
Wow.
And it happened multiple times over the series, but he was just like, wow. And again, it's like Titus Welliver. I loved Michael's face.
Yeah.
I just loved his face. And there was just something about him, including the reading that he did. And that I just thought, oh yeah, this is him.
Yeah, he was very brave too.
Yes.
What about Maia Campbell? I wanted to ask about that. Do you remember her at all? She was in the first episode of season 7, and we brought her back later on.
You know what? Just very, very brief, short, I think. I remember she was a really nice girl. Real nice girl, nice actress.
Yeah, we've been trying to find her. She's had a rough time. She's been on the streets. She's been in and out of rehabs, and back on the streets, and we can't find her.
Yeah, we would love to have her. Her work is great in this. So, okay, Joseph or Joey
Gian. Close your eyes and you think he's Sinatra.
You know what? Yes. And I'm trying to remember where I met him.
I mean, it has to be something fun. He seems like such a fun character actor.
I was in the room when we cast him because it was my character. I loved him. He just had that particularly oozing schmarmy quality.
But he's a sweet guy, a
Yeah.
real sweet guy. It's and I liked him again as an actor. It's once I decide that I do like somebody and I want to bring them in, that's it for them. And it's okay. Let's try and see who gets the role. Whoever gets the role, then I make the deal, and then he's off. He or she is off doing the job. Yay, great, it's over, moving on to the next. But Joey Gian, he was cute. He, exactly what Larry just described.
Yeah, I mean, he plays the old, the married guy for Valerie. It's a really interesting character. He's kind of the junior CPA in Jim's office, and Valerie winds up hooking up with him, and we have some fun with that. Again, we're looking for story because we're doing 32 episodes, and so we let Valerie go down that route with having an affair with a married man and all the. And we all could write that from experience. We've all took a long time to mature, so there was a lot of good stuff in there.
And he was the perfect guy for that kind of.
I know. We can't get him on the podcast. Literally, he is singing on cruise ships, I think.
I think he is doing that, and he will not come on our podcast to revisit this. It's bizarre.
Oh my God.
All right, there's a whole group of people here we should talk about.
Yeah.
J. Trevor Edmond.
Yes, Trevor Edmond.
Trevor Edmond. Sorry, I don't know what the J is. But Trevor Edmond is somebody. Trevor Edmond is the one that holds up the TV station.
Yeah, he holds it hostage. He's a bad guy. He's a heel.
Yeah. And Trevor Edmond was somebody that you had told us, Diane, I think, that read for Dylan.
Probably. Yes.
On that, he was on that list. Yeah. But so you, for all those seasons, you kept him on your radar for something.
Because there was something, I mean, I liked him as an actor, and you're not always right for everything.
Right.
And so he wasn't obvious, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
For the role.
I think Trevor Edmond went on to date Tori Spelling as well.
I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure that was a
early Tinder.
It was a long relationship. I think he was. I've seen videos of them like at events. I'm pretty sure that happened. When you find that out, Diane, that Tori is dating Trevor Edmond, or Jason's dating Christina Lease, or whatever, like how does, I mean, I don't know if it's specific like each couple, but how does that make you feel? Like you kind of put them together. You played a Cupid role in this in a way. In a way, and it has happened multiple times, and I just kind of go, "Oh, really? Huh? That's interesting." And was there ever a time we were like, "I would not have casted that"? Them together. I have never ever thought about that. Yeah,
it's just part of the profession, really. You spend all this time with someone, you really wind up, in a lot of ways, falling in love with them. You want to have that chemistry. Yeah. And I think maybe that's a part of what I find so important about an actor as a human being. What I've talked about before. So they're a decent person. You want to have that person around. Do I want this person on the set? Right. They fit in. Okay. Kane Pacoy. Kane Pacoy, I remember his face. I remember bringing him in on another show, and more than once. I think I brought him in on 90210. Past that, my memory's shot. He was good. Again, it was interesting with Kane because he was tall. Usually we weren't allowed to cast tall guys. It was an unwritten rule. Unless they're up against Steve. Yeah. But this way we were going to use it to our advantage because he was going to become, we knew we were going to go with that one. It was Valerie's boyfriend from Buffalo. There was an actor that we all really liked and we wanted him. And I had brought him in several times, and you always really liked him. And Mr. Spelling said he's too tall. David Boreanaz.
David was one of them.
One of them I
Ivan
distinctly remember.
Sergey, I think. Do you
Oh,
remember
absolutely. He came
Yeah.
in for everything. I mean,
Yes, exactly.
oh yeah, no, he was always too tall. Yeah, and I try to explain this to actors, friends of mine. I say sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're blonde, it doesn't work in your favor. It's a little bit of a numbers game. You just gotta.
So okay, when this actor comes in all the time and he's too tall, is there a point when you're like, we're just not going to see him anymore, or maybe he would be okay for it?
For me, from my point of view, yes. You just keep, as long as there's a slot that you can put him in the casting session.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me, because people like
But
him.
Larry, when you
Well, I remember Boreanaz definitely because
Oh.
we saw him so many times, and he became a pretty big star. He was Sergeant Bones,
He did.
and I always liked him, but it was just never going to happen because we just couldn't find the right role.
So you would be sitting in the room, and you're an actor yourself, Larry. You've been in things.
You're dead the minute you walk in the door. It just happens that way sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you try to be kind. I mean, we had a very kind room. We always were very
Yes.
professional in there. Paul and Dianne set a good move there, and you just go through it and you be polite and then move on. But you just know they have no chance.
Someone I want to ask about is Catherine Kendall, who's a friend here, and I've hung out with, and she's great. And she was in Swingers and has done so much stuff. She's in a new movie right now, Larry. Yeah, it's about what had happened with Harvey Weinstein and all that.
Oh yeah, she's part of the Harvey Weinstein lawsuit.
Yes, and so I'm curious about Catherine Kendall. If you recall meeting her, and
I remember meeting her. Specifics I don't, unfortunately, and I'm sorry about that. But I do remember meeting her and liking her very much.
Very,
I can see
very
the face
vivacious.
in my head right now.
she's a lovely person too. Okay, how about Greg Vaughn?
Oh, Greg Vaughn, yeah. He was the fireman.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Tori may have dated him as well. I don't know. I'm just making that up.
He was coming off of soap operas.
Yes, he was, but he was, there was something about him.
Yeah, I think he might have been a jeans model too. I mean, I know the other guy we had was a jeans model.
Jason?
Jason Lewis.
Yeah.
Was definitely a Jason. Yeah, we loved Jason.
Oh.
He was perfect, we thought. And I that was a sad time. I don't want to jump ahead in that, Pete, but that was season 7. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad moment for me.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Why was Jason Lewis a bad moment for you?
Bad moment because at like 6 in the morning, I got a call to come to the set that there was a problem, that it was another kissing problem. And we had to let go of an actor, which we had invested in and we thought was terrific. And someone else questioned his ability and, just weren't going to go. They weren't going to go on with him. If everyone was swinging their stick at that point.
Can I say who? Because obviously it's Tiffany. Yeah, she hasn't come on the show. So at this point, it's
like he was very upset. Sometimes when you do multiple story episodes, actors start saying, "Hey, I'm in the C story. I want to be in the A story, not the B story, and the C story or the D story. I'm in the runners." But for whatever reason, we thought he was so charming. And look, time has won out on him. He played the exact same character on Sex and the City, the exact same character with the exact same thespian chops. Okay. It was just charming. He just was a good looking guy. You liked him. He was authentic.
Yes.
And what do you remember about Jason Lewis, Dianne?
I love Jason Lewis. I had brought him in for several things as pre-reads for me, and he was out of New York because he was a model and he was doing other acting things. And I think I can't remember if he did anything on a soap or not, but he's just a great guy. A great human being. And you sit and you chat with him, and I remembered that about him. And you could work with him, you could have him do things and make changes, but I didn't know the story about that.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate, because again, he fulfilled a lot of what we wanted. He was like a hopeful coming to Hollywood from the Midwest. You don't have to be so polished, and there was a genuineness about him, an honesty about him, and again, we put him with the master manipulator character of Valerie, and it was going to be a fun rompy thing, and we had to kind of abort it about maybe 2/3 of the way through. We could have gone through, but just that's the way it went. at that year, again, everyone was really testing their power and their, and just that's what happens. No judgment now, because I'm grateful for everything we did. It's all great.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not, but yeah, that was the inner baseball of it, though. Yeah, that was a bad day, and we had to then write that character out. And the only validating thing for me, as my life is that he played this exact same character the same way on Sex and the City, and everyone loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him.
Dan,
even I bet Tiffany loved him when she watched the show.
Oh, I'm sure she does.
We should have got a guy like that.
Yeah, he was on the show, right? Yeah. I mean, actually, I just was watching an old show that Kathleen did called The Business with IFC, and Jason Lewis was in that too. So he's a working actor. He's fantastic.
Part of a great franchise, and he's in.
Yeah. Okay. How about Dan? How do you say it, Larry? Gauthier.
Oh, Dan Gauthier. Yes.
Yeah.
I had brought him in for a couple of other roles, I think, over the seasons. And he's attractive. He was
a tall actor.
Yes.
but against Ian, we could do that. It was acceptable. We didn't have to.
And you get to the point where when the show's been on for 7 years, you've used a lot of people. Okay, he's tall. I'm bringing him in. Tell him to wear flip-flops or something.
That's great. Okay, how about I just saw someone's name that I wanted to, Michelle Phillips.
Yes, Michelle Phillips.
Michelle Phillips gets cast as Valerie's mom.
Yes.
Tell me how that came to be.
The agent called me and said, "What about Michelle Phillips? Because she's acted some, And I said,
because the breakdown goes down to the agencies of the part, so they responded.
Yeah.
And so somebody calls you, her agent calls you and says, "What about Michelle Phillips for this?"
Yeah. The agent that covers the show, or might be her personal agent, and says what? And I said, "Michelle Phillips, Mama, Papa's, and Papa's." Michelle Phillips. Yeah, she acts, And I go, "Yes, I know that, but Michelle Phillips wants to be on 90210. Seriously?"
The minute we heard that, we were there. We was like, "Oh
exactly.
My God!"
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was
great.
That was, having rock and roll history on the show. That was like, that's out. Yeah, why not?
Oh yeah, we were all about that. That was easy.
Yeah.
In season 7, also, Larry, we pointed out that June Lockhart was cast as Donna's grandmother. Is that right?
I guess so. Yeah. We did
The
Ripe Young Age, and she was in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
June Lockhart, wow, classic of all television. She passed this year, I think. Yeah.
We almost had her, didn't we? Almost get her.
I know, and then exactly.
She's passed, Larry.
I'm not sure she has. She's just shut
don't
down.
write her. Don't
yeah,
kill
you're
her
right.
off.
Sorry, she's not right. Yeah. But someone who did, which you just mentioned.
Writers always want to kill the person off. No, she's still with us. She's 97, Larry. Yes.
Yule Hauser. I wanted to ask you about. Remember we got Yule Hauser, who was a friend of Jason's.
Yes.
That was so cool. He's a local celebrity.
Fun?
Yeah.
Greatest guy.
Yeah. The other one I wanted to ask you about, someone I had used in the 80s, I always thought she was great, was Julie Payne, was a recurring character for us.
Yes.
The great Julie. She played Professor Arnold's secretary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't ask about that.
The great Julie Payne. Yeah. We also had Carrie Strug this year.
Hold up. You're saying a lot of things. Let's go back to June Lockhart.
Oh my God.
Do you remember?
I love
Lassie.
Yes, she did. She played the mom in Lassie. And I had done about 10 years before 90210. I had done a pilot that I met every older actor who is still living. And June became a series regular. It didn't go past the pilot, which is a real shame. It was Jeff Harris. Do you remember him, Larry?
Jed Harris?
Jeff Harris. He's the writer, producer, Different Strokes.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was his show. He wrote it, and it was all about a retirement community that was 5 minutes from everything, and that was the name of it. And June Lockhart was one of the regulars.
So it was like early Golden Girls before Golden Girls.
Exactly, yes. And it was, oh man, she was one of the nicest people I've ever met. I took a script to her house one night, and because it was so late. And so she wasn't that far from me. So I took it to her and she was there. She goes, oh, come on in and come have a cup of coffee with me or tea or
She
tea or
seems
something.
like that she would be that type.
And that's the way she was.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting here with June Lockhart talking to her, that
Yep.
kind of a thing.
Yep.
So that's another name, oh, really? Okay, let's get her here now.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
She's
thrilled.
lovely in it too.
Well, yeah, we heard that. There was no casting. Yeah, of course. That's fantastic.
Also, Dom DeLuise is in this, another like legend. He's in this season, right? He's the magician, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
But wasn't he a friend of someone's, Larry?
Well, I would think it would be Aaron. I don't, what magician? I'm confused.
The magic magician.
Yeah, like
later on
he goes. Doesn't Jason Brandon goes and gets this magic wand for?
Yeah.
I don't know why he did that.
Dom DeLuise. I think it was Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe. Say Duke.
I think
Duke
you might be
Vincent's
right
friend. It was no, it definitely was Duke. It was definitely Duke. I remember now.
Yeah,
it was Duke.
You totally blanked out about the whole magician thing.
I did, but now once you said it, once you said where it was in the series, because some episodes we haven't seen yet, and I just don't remember them.
Oh, we have to watch that one. Yeah,
we should. Ruth Livier was another one.
I was going to say Ruth Livier.
She's such a good actress, and she's another one of the actresses that I had met when I on previous shows, and even I believe when I was an assistant, even though she's young as well. And I just liked her. You wanted her to be around. She'd be a good addition to the set.
Yeah, she's been on the show. She's been lovely, and she's got a really big career going on for herself too. It's just she added a nice little tone, in the Kelly Taylor world with her father and a half sister. Again, we needed to create story because we're doing so many episodes. So you got to keep mining, family. You got to vertically integrate the characters into themselves, to find where story is.
Right.
Natalia Sigaludi. Yeah.
Is that it? Yes.
Yes.
I've seen. I am so sorry to say, I don't.
I barely do.
Tell me what role she did.
She plays a singer.
Yeah, she plays a singer.
David's producing.
Yeah,
and my brother and I wrote the song she does. I don't remember much about it. I think so. I mean, I remember being in the casting for it. So
isn't this the one that
we cast in a
bra? She's in a bra when Donna comes to the door. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's all right. It happens.
Nothing I'm proud of, but it's all right.
Natalia. Okay. Carrie Strug does. Yeah, Carrie Strug does become a part of this. Tell me about Carrie Strug.
Carrie Strug was with the same management company that Steve Young was. And I had become friends with one of the people there. And, well, you got to find something for Carrie Strug. I said, Carrie Strug, Carrie Strug? We're like, oh, yeah, she'd do the show? Oh, of course. And, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Dianne called us up, and so we said, "Yeah, we'll write something for her."
Exactly.
That's what we did. It was just very simple, because again, at that point, we, culturally, we liked, being culturally on the map on things, and she was what was happening at the point. She had just come off the Olympics, I'm sure.
Yes.
Not quite sure what would be 96 Olympics or whatever, and so it was kind of fun. We did that a lot, and we were, able to accommodate. It wasn't a particularly taxing part. I think she has one line, but yeah.
Yeah, she was so happy to do that role.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean,
herself.
Yeah, I got her autograph.
Allison Smith.
Allison Smith, I can remember, redhead, pretty girl.
Yes. Yeah, she went on and did The West Wing and a lot of great guest stars. Yes.
On The West Wing, yes.
Yes, she was.
I have to ask, what did she play for us? I don't recall her.
We had her on the podcast, Larry. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
She is the girl that I think is having a marriage problem.
Oh, yeah, the one. The one we do with Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. All right. She was really good. Yeah.
Luther Vandross is on this season. Would that be you guys, or would that be you, Dianne, that gets Luther Vandross?
It was not. What was his name? Ken
Miller. I was going to say Ken Miller would have made those deals. Ken was our music guy.
And then I always got the call from him that I had to finalize the deal and do all that stuff. Yes. So that's what I did. And I, always went to the set and had them sign the contracts because they came from our office and just for time. And I remember Luther Vandross was at Calvert, and there was a trailer.
Because he did After Dark stuff. He did.
Yeah.
He was
the Valentine's show.
Yeah, but he like acted like he was in the scene. Like he was. I think he loved 90210. I'm pretty sure.
He was so happy to be there because I went to say hello to him and make sure he had everything that he wanted. And
Right.
and we had a really nice conversation. But yes, he did. He loved the show, and he just was beaming. He said, "I'm so glad to be doing this. It's so much fun. Thank you." And I'm like,
that's awesome. That's very awesome.
Oh,
It was cool for us. I mean, he was a big star.
Yeah.
This actor, Corin Nemec, who was Larry, he was John Riley's. He
worked for Kelly Taylor's father and Scams of Valerie.
Scams Valerie. Yeah.
I remember.
Any memories, Dianne, of Corin Nemec?
Yeah.
Well, he had come off a big show too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What was the show that he came off?
Parker Lewis.
Parker Lewis. I was going to say he was Parker Lewis, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody, we all knew his name. And what do you mean he's available? Okay, great. Yay. So you go and you bring him up, and really? He'll come do the show? Sure.
Yeah, that's how we felt. What about this Grayson McCouch? We didn't talk about him. Do you remember him at all? Grayson McCouch. He did a one-off. He played the Phantom of CU.
We can't find him either. He's difficult to find. It's oddly like the Phantom of CU.
I didn't even recognize his name at all, but he's really good in this thing.
I always loved his name.
Grayson.
Right.
I always liked his name.
I don't remember him at all.
Well, he was supposed to come on the podcast, but then he disappeared. So that's very.
I think Steve would have done the casting on that because that was his episode.
Okay.
I don't have many more names, but looking back on season 7 as it was coming to an end for you, Dianne, that must have been a transition for your life. You were working on this show for all these years. And what was it like to say goodbye to the series and this world?
You just walked away, or I did. And I knew that I could talk to any of the producers at the same time, but I needed a cooling off time because it was so intense, constantly so intense, and you need to sleep. So I took everything from my office.
Got your diploma.
It's upside down, Larry. It's upside down. You're like holding the belt upside down.
Sorry, the belt up. Don't ever call it the belt, Pete.
I'm sorry.
Championship, please. Vince will come down on you if you use the word belt.
Sorry.
He does not like the word belt.
Championship.
Not use the word belt.
Sorry. But anyway, go ahead, Dianne. I'm sorry.
No, you just go on and you figure out what you want to do next, and you take some time and you call people and say, "So I'm not doing the show anymore." What? Why not? I got a lot of that. And, I sometimes, to close friends, I'd say things, but others I said, I'm just not doing it. Other people, I did get calls from other people who were very happy to know that I was not doing the show anymore. Which I found, okay, great. That's all part of it as well.
They were happy you weren't doing the show?
Yeah. Because they didn't care for how I did things sometimes, as far as I would be blunt with feedback sometimes, and they didn't like that. And I blunt, but as kind as I could be. And if they're, exactly. And you do the best you can. And also there were people who didn't like deals that I made because they didn't think that I was generous enough. Yes.
Like it was your money.
Exactly. It wasn't. So there are a lot of little things. And that part was interesting. So, you just take some time and then you start to say, hey, I'm ready to go back to work if you know of anything. And at some point somebody hires you.
And what did you do after 90210? Did you do a show after?
Yes. After 90210, I got a call from, his name just went right out of my head, from an agent who I used to know. And he was currently working at a production company that was working with Jerry Bruckheimer and Jonathan Levin.
Littman. Oh,
Yeah.
Jonathan. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Levin was a producer over at the Bruckheimer place at that time.
Oh.
And so Rob said, Jonathan, he said, I heard about you not being on 90210 anymore. He goes, I don't understand it, but we have a show. Come do this show for us. And then Jonathan Levin said the same thing to me. And he said, oh, I was so happy to see that you were available and you can come work for us. So I think that's really great. And they just gave me the job. I didn't have to meet anybody because I knew the two of them, which I thought was really, really nice. And I did that show. It was it was one of his shows on cable. It was pre-CSI.
Okay.
What show was it?
I'm Soldier of Fortune. And it was just a crazy show. Dennis Rodman was on it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was interesting. And the actor who played Miranda's husband in Sex and the City was a regular. And the lead actor was someone who had, I don't know that he'd had series before. I'm trying to remember his name. He's passed away this year. He's a younger, attractive guy. He was in, it was a movie that was actually shot here because it used to be an Air Force base just outside of town. And it was the longest runway in the world. And so Steven Spielberg shot a movie up here.
Wow.
He was one of the guys in it. But I unfortunately can't remember his name. So I did that for 3 years.
I think you're thinking of Jonathan Littman, not Jonathan Levin. Jonathan Littman, because he became Bruckheimer's partner. Okay. Jonathan Levin stayed at the Spelling Company after letting me go and basically you go. He stayed there for the activation. So Jonathan Littman, he had like a big head.
He had been was he at Fox?
Yes.
Yes.
He was the Fox executive on the show.
I am wrong. I apologize.
Okay, there you go.
I was just thinking about it now. I just knew it had to be Littman because Levin was still at Spelling Man.
Okay. Well, thank you for correcting me.
No problem.
Well, look, this was season 7. It was a difficult season, but still a very memorable one. I think even some of the names that we talked about here, there was a lot of people and episodes that we can recall. So you still did a really wonderful job with the casting of the show, despite whatever challenges you guys were thrown.
Well, Pete, when I went through the cast list in order, there's a remarkable drop off of guest star roles later on in the season. Like we don't really have any other, everything was just brought inside. Like we were told don't spend the money or something. I can't remember why, but there's just not the usual amount of other parts we were casting. Maybe we were just wearing down. We're just writing tighter as we geared down. We were just turning everything inside because we knew it was the end for the characters. So
sure.
All the stories were about their relationships.
They were graduating college too, so there was that aspect.
And we also brought in all the recurring characters from the past, like like John Riley and everyone else. And so that was happening too. It was just an interesting phenomenon. I just noticed.
Yeah. All right, this is great, guys. Dianne will be back maybe next week to do season 3, and then we're going to do some fan stuff with you, which will be, I know you can't wait for. So
great.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, well, they are all in on the Dianne Young train, so it's exciting. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, you guys, this is great. See you next week. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.